If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code REMA you can get yourself a 5% discount. I reached the Elite Division without spending any money on FIFA 23. This is how I did it. I quite often see people say FIFA is a pay-to-win game, and to be fair it is in many ways, but that doesn't mean you can't be good at the game without spending your hard-earned money. In order to get to the Elite Division, there are 4 main things you have to do in FIFA 23. The first thing you need to do is build a team that gels well together, and the best way to do this is to consider the work rates of the players that you are using. You should also make sure there is a balance in your team. So I see a lot of people that just go for lengthy players, and this isn't always the best idea because obviously lengthy players are not the most agile, so you're not going to have anyone that can dribble really. So to give you guys a better idea, this is how my team looks in game. So I have Leao and Chiesa as wide cams, Ronaldo as a striker, Jota as a central cam, Vieira and Renato as 2 CDMs, and then the back 4 is the same. So why does this work so well? Well, Ronaldo, for example, is a high-low player, so he has a good attacking work rate and a bad defensive work rate. So as a sole striker, this is very good because he hangs in those positions. The architect makes him a lengthy player, which allows him to make those good runs in behind the defense and make the runs that explosive and controlled players don't make. Now, I said you don't want to have lengthy players everywhere, but in a striker position it makes sense to have a lengthy player like Ronaldo. Now, your central cam is also a very important player, so you can see I've got Diogo Jota playing here in game, and the reason he works so well is because he has that 5-star weak foot, which means he can go either way with either foot and it's very unpredictable to play against. He also has a high work rate, which actually works very well in the cam position because it keeps his movement more natural. The high attacking work rate means he's always in the correct position when you are attacking, and the high defensive work rate means he positions himself correctly when you don't have the ball. So when you do win the ball back, he is already in the correct position, so you get better movement out of it. Now, because I play a 4-2-3-1 narrow, I have 2 wide cams, these being Leao and Chiesa, and in this formation you actually have more variety with this because their work rates aren't as important as other positions. So for example, Chiesa is an explosive player with a high-medium work rate. This works very well because if you have lengthy players in these wide cam positions, yeah, you can make really good runs, you can pace abuse, but you can't dribble as well as you can with somebody like Chiesa who is explosive. And the high-medium work rate actually works very well because that high attacking work rate always keeps him in the good positions that you want a cam to be in, and the medium defensive work rate means he doesn't get too involved in defense, but he does come back that little bit. Now, my left cam is Rafael Leao, and again, this is proof that you don't always need the perfect work rates in these positions. Leao is a medium low player, and I've actually found this works very well for me because he seems to make more lazy movements, if that makes sense. So when you lose the ball, he hangs about in weird positions, so if you win the ball back, he's actually in a really good position without intending to be there, if you get what I'm saying. And having him as a medium low actually gives him like a bit of a difference compared to your other players, so when you are going forward you have more of a different option that's not picked up by the defenders as much. I can't explain medium low very well, but it just seems to work very well. Now, my 2 CDMs in this formation are very important. I have one which is an out and out CDM being Vieira, and the other one which is a more box to box player, Renato Sanchez. The work rates and the stats of the player should reflect the player that you're using in that position. So for example, Vieira, I want him to be a stay back while attacking CDM, so I make sure he has very good defensive stats. Now, although he's not perfect with a medium work rate, his stats actually make up for it. If he was a high medium, I think it would be a bit more of a problem because he'd be more attacking minded, but because he's a medium, he seems to just hang back because of the average work rates. Ideally, your stay back CDM would be a medium high player because they'd be way more defensive minded than attacking minded, and it reflects what you want them to do. Now, I have a box to box CDM, that being Renato Sanchez. I have him on balanced attack, which means he contributes to attack and he also contributes to the defense, and his high work rate actually complements what I want him to do very well because it means he's very good at attacking with that high attacking work rate, and he's also very good at defending with his high defensive work rate, and obviously with his stats included, that makes him perfect for this role. It's very important you consider that, guys. Now my two fullbacks are actually high medium players, them being Hernandez and Hakimi, and they're both very quick players and they're both very good on the ball. This is because I don't actually have my fullbacks as solely defensive players. I want them to contribute on the attack, and them having these stats actually really helps. Them being high medium means they have very good attacking intelligence. If I wanted them to be stay back while attacking fullbacks, I would probably go for somebody with a high defensive work rate because that makes more sense. Their sole purpose is to defend. My two centre backs, Varane and Kimpembe, are both medium-high centre-backs, and I think this is very important because if they're not medium-high or they don't have a high defensive work rate, I do not think they stay in the correct position and they are not as effective at centre-back. They are also lengthy players with a shadow chem style as well, which means they are very quick, so when your opponent is playing those through balls, they are quick enough to catch them. Your two centre-backs are very important. You want them to be lengthy players. So we've spoken about how work rates and the players you use are very important, but what about the tactics that you use to set up in game? Well, these are also important, so let's get into mine. Now your tactics are very important because they should complement your play style as well as the players that you have in your team, and obviously they need to fit the formation. So let's go over mine. I have my defensive style on balance because I like to press when I want to press, but I also don't want them to be super aggressive all the time because it will pull them out of position. Similarly, I don't want them to drop off all the time, so having it on balance gives me more control, and I quite like that. Now with my defensive width, because I'm using a narrow formation, I have this on 40 because it keeps my defense quite compact and narrow, and it keeps them in a good shape for the formation, and it's also not too narrow that when opponents go down the wing, I have no one there to cover it, so it's a very nice balance that I enjoy using. Now as I've said before, I've got these off Boras Legend, but I've adapted them to my liking. So for build-up play, I have it on fast build-up as he suggested, and the reason for this is because it allows me to play quicker passing football, which I like to do. When I was focused on the meta, I had this on balance, but I noticed I enjoyed using fast build-up more, and I actually got better plays out of it from using fast build-up, even though some people don't like it. So I enjoy using fast build-up, and that's why I use it. Chance creation, I use direct passing because it is by far the best one. If you use balance, possession, or forward runs, I don't think you get the correct movement out of your players. With direct passing, your players are always looking to create chances. They're always looking to exploit spaces that you don't get with the other settings. So I prefer to use direct passing as I think it is the best. Now because I like to play short intricate passes along with fast build up, I use an attacking width of 35, and again this complements a formation I'm using. I'm using a 4-2-3-1 narrow, so having a narrow width when attacking makes more sense. Having these players in these positions and at this width allows you to play shorter, more intricate passes that are harder for your opponent to intercept all the time, and I really enjoy using this. Players in box is down to preference. I have this on 7 because I like to commit a lot of players to the attack, and it gives me the most passing options when I do get into those positions, but again it's down to preference. Same thing with corners and free kicks. I just have this on 2 because I find it to be the most effective. Now for my instructions on my striker, I have stay central and get in behind because like I said, Ronaldo is a lengthy player, which means he's going to make those very good runs, so I want to make the most of that. Having him on getting behind makes sense. I have him on stay central because I don't want him drifting off into the wing all the time because he is my only striker and I need him to be in those central positions. Now for both my wide cams, I just have them on get into the box for cross, and it's not because I want to cross the ball all the time, it just improves their attacking intelligence. So when you are attacking on the edge of the box, those players do get into the penalty box to, you know, create those chances that they wouldn't do otherwise. My central cam being Jota, I just have him on stay forward, and this works very well because you don't like to limit their AI as much as possible, and because he's on stay forward and he has a high defensive work rate, you'll still find he gets into decent positions when you are defending, but he doesn't come too far back, which is perfect. Now on my box-to-box CDM, this being Renato Sanchez, I just leave him alone and put him on cover centre because obviously I don't want him drifting off into the wings because he's a central player, but I don't like to limit what he can do. So I have him on balanced defence because I don't just want him to cut passing lanes, I also want him to do everything else. I have him on balanced attack because I don't want him to stay back while attacking, I want him to go forward and come back, and like I said, the high work rate allows him to do this properly. Vieira, on the other hand, like I said, is my more defensive CDM, so I do have him on stay back while attacking because I don't want him to overcommit up the pitch because that's not what he's necessarily good at. And I also have him on cover centre because, again, he's not a wide player. I want him to be in the middle. That's his position, right? But the stay back while attacking means he doesn't go forward with the attack, and with his work rates, he would get caught out far too often if he was on balance. So having him on stay back while attacking makes sense. Now for my left back, I actually just leave him completely alone because I don't like to restrict what he can do. I think Hernandez has very good attacking intelligence, so I just like to let him do what he wants to do. And when you're defending, he still gets back into position when necessary, so this is why I just leave him alone. Hakimi, on the other hand, I actually have on stay back while attacking, and this doesn't mean I can't attack with him when I want to. It just means when we are going forward, we at least always have 3 people back. So this works very well because we have very many people in attack, and we also have quite a few people in defense. If I desperately need the other option, I can just trigger a run with Hakimi and he'll run right forward, but I just like to have him on stay back while attacking to give me extra support in the back line. So we've spoken about how I set my team up and why I use the players I do, but what do you actually have to do in order to get into the elite division? Well, the third thing you guys need to do, and you might not like this, is you need to understand the meta of the game. Notice how I said understand and not use or abuse. Now, I do obviously use some meta mechanics. I use R1 dribbling. I'll obviously use over the top through balls when it makes sense, but it doesn't mean I exploit the mechanics all the time. The main reason you need to understand the meta is because that's what a lot of opponents are going to be using against you. If you don't understand what the meta is, you're not going to be able to combat it. For example, you might not like using lengthy strikers and pace abusing, but other people will, so you need to understand that over the top through balls are very effective, and somebody like Haaland is pretty much unstoppable when an over the top through ball is played. So by understanding this meta, you know to always track that run with your defender. Similarly, you need to understand that trivela shots are very overpowered, even if you don't like using them as such, because if you are constantly dropping off, your opponent will start popping them in all the time. So understanding that the trivela is a meta allows you to close these players down and prevent these shots from being taken. Understanding the meta, even if you don't like to use it, will help you a ton because it helps you limit what your opponent can do against you, because a lot of people in the top divisions just abuse the meta. They don't really know anything else, so if you can keep their little meta tactics on lock, you're going to have a much better time, I can promise. Now lastly, the most important thing is to have patience. Rivals is actually a very good game mode for this because you're not always punished for losing. You are in the short term, but not really in the long term. You can't get relegated from your divisions, you can't go below the checkpoint, you can only really progress. So even if you are losing games, having patience is key because it will get you much further. When you lose a game, just take a break and come back, because again, just remember, you can't really lose your progression. Obviously you can if you're not at a checkpoint, but you can't get relegated or anything, so it's really not that important. Just relax and have a bit of fun with it. That's what I did. Patience is also the most underrated thing because it allows you to learn how you like to play. When I first started using this formation and the players I was using, I wasn't really playing that well, but I gave it the time for it to gel and really understand how my players work, and it became 10 times easier as a result. When I first packed Ronaldo, I thought he was pretty bad because I didn't really understand how to utilize him, but as I've played more with him, I understand what he's good at, and he does a lot better for me now. But yeah, this is how I reached the elite division, and it's how you guys can too. If you have enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all later. Peace.